right, we're going to now do these woven wheels to create the roses. I'm going to start with all 6 strands of 3773, the same color we used on the door. And for woven wheel, you want to come up at the edge of one of the little spokes. There should be 5 spokes already inside of the circle. And make your down stitch in the middle. And you're going to repeat that for each spoke on the circle. So I'm just coming up at the edge of the circle where the spoke is and going back down through the middle each time. Same hole in the middle. Okay, once you have your spokes filled in, you're going to come up right next to the center in between 2 of your spokes. Pick any one you want and pull your thread all the way through. You're going to be weaving under and over each of these spokes. So I'm going to start by going over the spoke closest to me and under the one after that. And I'm going to pull my thread all the way through. And just, you don't have to pull it super tight, just kind of pull it until it hits tension. So now I did under this one, so I'm going to go over and then under the next one. So I'm alternating. I go over, under. Be sure that you don't run your needle into anything that we've already stitched. So just, I'm kind of like pushing it up so that it doesn't run into any other stitches. And pull it through. So now I'm going to go over this spoke and under this one. Sometimes it can kind of want to go through the sticky paper, so I sort of just from underneath push up on the hoop so that I can get the needle through there nice and easily. So I went under this one, so I'll go over and then under this one. I'm going to go over this one, under this one. I will go over this one, under this one. Over, under. So over, under. Over, under. Over, under. Skip this one. Now I can't really see this one anymore, so I'm actually just going to go ahead and make a little down stitch right here. Since I'm getting close to the end here, you can kind of just fill in anything else that's remaining with a few straight stitches. So I'm going to come up on the outside of this remaining spoke, and I'm going to make a down stitch right here at the end of the other one. I'm going to come up on the outside of this spoke, make a down stitch right here at the other spoke. So I'm just sort of filling in any remaining space to make the rose look a little bit fuller. All right, that one should be good. So you can go ahead and tie off in the back. And then we'll do the next 2 the same way. We're going to fill in this little rose next, and we're going to use all 6 strands of 644 for this one. Okay, so again, I'm going to come up at the edge of one of my spokes here. And then go down through the center. Repeat for all remaining spokes. and 5. Then you're going to come back up right next to the center in between 2 of the spokes, and you're going to weave over and under. So I'm going to go over this one and under this one. Just be careful that your needle doesn't go into the sticky paper. So try to kind of push up so that you can pull the needle away from the sticky paper. Over, under. We're going to go over this one, under this one. We're going to go over this one, under this one. Also be careful not to run into any other of your other stitches. So this is sometimes where I'm kind of pressing the fabric down and pulling my needle up so that my needle doesn't run into any of my other stitches. It can be just a little bit tricky, so just take your time with it. So we're going to go over this one, under this one. And again, you're going to continue that until you have finished this whole rose. So meet me back when you're done with that. Just as a reminder here, it was getting kind of hard to go through my spokes anymore, so I am just going to cover up any remaining space with some little stitches around the flower. So I'm just coming up on the outside of a spoke, right next to the flower, and making my down stitch right on the side of another spoke. So that kind of helps fill out your flower again. Come up right here, I'll fill over this one. Anywhere you feel like it needs a little more volume, you can give it that volume with that technique. Last rose we're going to do is this little one right here. We're using 6 strands of ecru here. So this one can be the trickiest just because you just don't want to run into any of your other stitches. So just watch out for that. But you're going to do it the same way. So once you've completed that one, we will move on to the next floral element. Okay, so I'll meet you back when we're done with this last little flower here. All right, we're gonna do these 3 little leaf and stems sticking out here at the top of the pumpkin. For this, you're gonna use all 6 strands of 640, and we're gonna start with a back stitch for the stems. So for back stitch, just like we did on the garland, you're going to come up and make a little straight stitch to start. And then every other stitch is going to be a back stitch. So you come up a stitch length away, and then you make your down stitch in the same hole of your previous stitch. Come up a stitch length away, make my hole in the previous stitch space. So I'm going to go all the way up the stem here. And then for each of the little leaves, we're going to do a tightly pulled lazy daisy. So for that, for lazy daisy, you want to come up at the base of the leaf shape, pull your thread all the way through, then you're going to put your needle back down the same hole that you just came up through. You're going to pull it until you have a loop left out here, and then you're going to come up at the at the very top of the leaf shape, right in the middle there, on the inside of your loop. And then you're going to pull in the direction of the leaf shape until you get it about to the shape of the leaf here. So I haven't pulled all the way tight. I'm leaving just a little bit, and then you're going to anchor it down by putting your needle down right on the other side of that loop and pulling it all the way down. I'll show you that again. So we're going to come up at the base of this leaf shape, pull all the way. I'm going to go down the same hole, leave a loop out, come up at the tip of the leaf shape, pull my needle in the direction of the leaf shape until my thread reaches the shape that I want. When it does, I'm going to anchor it down by making a down stitch on the other side of those stitches of the loop, right on the other side there, and then pull through. And we will repeat for each leaf shape. Anchor this down, do it over here, all right, and then there's a little tiny one right here. You can just make a little tiny lazy daisy, or you can choose to leave it out. Whatever's up to you. It depends on if your flower maybe covered up more of the space than mine did. I'm just going to do a little tiny lazy daisy right here. So just come up at the edge of those flowers, pull, and then anchor this down. Okay, then you're going to repeat for this one and this one. Then we will move on. All right, once you've finished all of those leaves and stems, we're going to fill in this flower. I'm using 6 strands. Whoops. Whoa. There we go. Okay. I'm using 6 strands of 38/58, and I'm going to start, since we're doing satin stitch, I'm just going to make a little tiny stitch in the middle of one of these. That'll get covered up so I'm not running into my knot. All right, so now I can start filling in each of these leaves with a satin stitch. So I'm going to come up maybe on this little indent here, and then go towards the center. Then I'll go right next to that one, following the line of this petal shape. And I might come down, make my down stitch just a little bit above that previous down stitch, so I'm not always going into the same exact hole. Then I'm going to come up to the tip of this petal, and I might make my down stitch in the same spot this time. So you're just filling in this petal shape as best you can. With your stitches here. So this might stop right about here. And then I could maybe do one more. This one I might pull all over these and go into the center here. All right, so that petal looks pretty good. I'll go ahead and go to the next petal. Towards the center point here. And then I'll go next to it, working my way up. So just fill in this space as best you can with some satin stitching here. Sometimes on the side of the petal you might just pull a little bit of a shorter stitch. I like to start in the middle, go down, and then fill around my middle stitch. So once you've filled in every petal, we will do a little French knot in the middle. I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. I have finished up stitching this flower. Right in the middle of the flower, I'm going to do a French knot using all 6 strands of 3773. So I'll show you how to do French knot again. For French knot, you're going to come up. I'm just coming up a little bit to the side of the very, very center, pulling my needle and thread all the way through. I'm going to do a 2-wrap, I'm going to do a 2-wrap French knot here. So I'm going to hold my needle horizontal, wrap my thread around 1 time, let's try that again, 1 time, 2 times, let it loose a little bit so that I can angle my needle down. I'm going to make my down stitch right next to where I came up, so that's going to be right in the center of my flower. And now I'm pulling this tight here while I angle my needle straight down and push it through that knot. I'm still holding this tight while I take my needle down through the knot, still holding this tight until I can let it go and pull it all the way through. All right, now we just need to finish up this little series and we'll be done with the flowers. Okay, for this we're going to start with the stems here. That's going to be 6 strands of the dark green 435. Still using my large-eyed needle just to make it easier here. I am going to start right down here. We're going to do a back split stitch. So it's pretty similar to a back stitch, we just change where we make our down stitch every time. You still start with a little straight stitch. And then you're going to come up a stitch length away. Now with back stitch, we would go down through the same hole here. With back split stitch, I'm going to actually split these threads and put my needle down about halfway through my previous stitch. So I'm splitting it right down the middle. Like so. I'll go all the way up this one first. So I'm coming out a stitch length away, splitting these threads, and going back down through the center of my previous stitch. A stitch length away, come up, go back down through the center of my previous stitch. I'll do one more here. Okay, then you can come up over here, and since we're starting kind of a new line, you want to start with a little straight stitch first, and then do back split. So come up a stitch length away, make your down stitch through the center of those stitches and split the threads. Come up a stitch length away, make your down stitch through the center of your previous stitch and split the threads. Come up a stitch length away, make my down stitch by splitting my threads and going down through that last stitch. This line kind of works continuously, so I can end right there and then start again right here. I'll just make myself a little stitch to start. And now I can go with back stitches. One more. Okay, so then tie off a knot, and then we were going to fill in these circles with French knots. Okay, last for the flowers on top of the pumpkin house is all 6 strands of the golden yellow 680. Ta-da! And we're going to use all 6 strands. We're going to do a few French knots to fill in these circle spaces. I like to do just a 1 wrap French knot here, but we're going to do a few of them. So for 1 wrap French knot, you do the same thing, hold your needle horizontal, just wrap 1 time, and then you're going to want to make your down stitch right next to wherever you came up. Hold this part tight, pull through, and then let go when you're close to pulling all the way through. So it doesn't have to be a perfect circle. May pull one right here, maybe do a couple more on this one. Just kind of want it to look nice and chunky and have a little bit of volume. I love French knots. They're really great for adding texture and volume to your embroidery piece, but they do take a little bit of practice. So if you're not getting it on the first try, you're not alone. It took me a long time to be able to do French knots this quickly. And if they come out kind of loose or wonky, that's okay. We can put these all close together, and we want it to look full of texture, and so if one of them kind of comes undone a little bit or it's a little bit wonky, that's totally fine. Finished up these two, so then I'm just going to do this one over here now. Since we're working towards the edge of the sticky paper, just kind of make sure if it comes up, you can just hold it down a little bit, but this should be pretty anchored down at this point, so it's okay if it comes up a little bit like that, as long as you're still able to stitch in that area. It's fine if that excess part sticks out a little bit. It's all gonna wash away when we're done anyways. So I'm just gonna do a few more over here. Maybe 2 more. Okay. All right. So I've got all of the floral elements done, and now we get to stitch the pumpkin.